my current arm training routine, some updates of what we've been doing here, starts out with the heavy dumbbell tricep extensions after several warm-ups. And I'm doing the first set with a fast, explosive tempo, trying to drive strength, because I've seen this to lead to a lot of my progress. And then I take a rest for like 5 minutes, and then we go over to biceps with the curls, the same thing. Form's not perfect, trying to chuck a bunch of weight around. And then I just gave him food. Did he eat it all?
Yes.
Oh, wow, he's hungry. And then take another 5-minute rest, roughly. And then I'll either do another round of that, or I'll change to doing a slower tempo. That's what I did today. So the first round, I got 12 reps with the 100 and I think it's, I thought this dumbbell was 142 pounds, but I put it on the scale and it's actually 138, so I lied. But I do think that scale underestimates, because it says I'm like 225, well 223 today, but on other scales, like the next day, multiple other scales I've used at other gyms, it'll say I'm 227 or 228. And some of them this is like a really old scale at the gym. Anyway, so I think the dumbbell might be 140, I think the scale is like a couple pounds under. It's telling me it's 138. It's supposed to be a 135, but doesn't account for the handle. Anyways, let's say it's roughly 140. All right. 12 reps with not perfect form, explosive tempo. Over to the curls, 135 for 12 reps. And then the second round, I'm going to use the same weight, but I'm going to change the tempo. If you go with a slower tempo, you're always going to get less reps because you're using less momentum, less speed. It's going to be more difficult. So it drops down to 8 reps for the triceps. And then I think I got 8 reps for the biceps as well. So that's 2 rounds of that. With the heavy weight, first round is fast, explosive. Second round is like moderate, medium tempo, a little bit more control, a little bit slower. And then I'm going to move into the pump stuff, this is kind of how I've structured my training for a while. Except the volume here with like these heavy sets, progressive overload based sets, is a little lower. I would traditionally do maybe 3 to 5 rounds. I've found that for whatever reason lately I've been more fatigued, and that amount of volume seemed to be creating more systemic fatigue that I wasn't recovering from, which is a bit unique for me and unusual, but that's just what I'm noticing right now. Could be due to a multitude of factors. We won't get into that at the moment. Then I move into a more pump-orientated, hey, get down from there, boy, type of work here with some kind of pause reps. So I'm using the 95 or the 100, and I'm pausing at the bottom in the stretch, and then I'm, extending up with control, pausing at the top, and then, controlling the eccentric coming back down. And we're getting, I don't know how many reps. I'm not really counting the reps that much or caring that much about the weight here. It's more about the feel, about trying to use perfect form, completely eliminate momentum with the pauses. And I feel like holding that stretch at the bottom is stimulating my chest more. My pecs are getting some growth. And then we're doing 3 drops. So then I'm dropping down to the 60. And then I'm doing a pause at the bottom, 2 explosive reps, and then another pause at the bottom, and we just keep that going, kind of going down to partials until I can't move my arms. And then we drop down to the 45, and I do the same thing, but instead I'm pausing at the top, so in the contracted shortened position, which burns. And then I'm doing 2 explosive reps, pause at the top, 2 explosive reps, pause at the top, till we can't do it anymore. Rest a minute. Then we go do the same thing with curls, hammer curls, pause at the top, pause at the bottom with the 35s, drop down to the 20s, pause at the bottom, 2 explosive reps, pause at the bottom, 2 explosive reps, pause at the bottom. And then we drop down to the 15s, 2 explosive reps, pause at the top, 2 explosive reps, pause at the top, repeat that. Rest 1 more minute, that's 1 round of the tricep, bicep, superset, drop set amalgamation. And I repeat that once more for a total of 2 rounds. And that's the session. And most of my workouts are looking something like this lately. A handful of working sets for the triceps and biceps, supersetted with heavy weight, longer rest times in the beginning where I'm really focused on the number. I'm tracking the weight I'm doing. I'm trying to beat what I did last time. And then we move in to some more pump stuff. with slower tempo, controlled tempo, more tempo variant, some pauses, some drop sets, supersetting again, where the aim is to maximize the pump, the amount of blood that gets into the muscle. And I will say that over time, I have noticed that seemingly the progressive overload, gaining strength, is the main thing that's driving growth. And I'm a big fan of pump it up, crazy different drop set, crazy workout, freaking 300 reps till your arms fall off. But I have to be honest, I don't think that's super productive for producing more growth. I will say I believe that it still has a place and is useful, but best suited for the end of your workout. Largely because I don't think it's going to contribute to the majority of your growth, so you don't want to burn out in the beginning with low rest times trying to maximize a pump. If you just go into your workout and chase a pump, you'll see some growth in the beginning if you're new, because you'll grow from anything. But as you get more experience, you've been training for a couple years, structuring your training to try to progress the weight that you do, it's really as simple as that, I think. As time goes on, and I'll try any wacky different technique or strategy somebody could come up with. I've done a lot of them. Not all of them, I was going to say. There's always something new to try. But if I'm being honest, it does seem that just the simple focus of progressive overload leads to most of the growth. And in my opinion, a fast, explosive tempo is useful for driving additional strength, mixed in with slower, more controlled tempo to milk more gains or get more hypertrophy out of each set, controlling the movement, getting more activation and stimulus on the muscle, all the stuff that the science, high-tech people say. A mixture of two approaches has worked best for me. If you're not willing to train with a higher explosive tempo, or you haven't, I suggest you give it a go and see what happens, especially if you've been training for a while. For me, I was stuck in a plateau, and that was something that helped me grow a lot and gain a lot of additional strength, which then I can move heavier weights at a slower controlled tempo than I could previously. And if I had just stayed milking the eccentric, pausing at the bottom, I don't think I would have gained as much strength to be able to get 8 good reps with a 140-pound dumbbell with control, or do the 100-pound dumbbell for pause at the bottom, pause at the top. I think I'd still be stuck with the 70 or the 80 or the 90 at maximum. That's what it seemed like. And my arms weren't growing either. I was stuck at 17 inches back then. Now we're almost 19, 18 and 3/4 last measurement. And if you stay consistent, you will grow. But if you stay consistent and you don't make any adaptations, you're not going to grow as fast, or you may stagnate. And that's why I think a lot of people will argue like training, years spent training. And I'm like, it depends how effectively you were in those years. Just because somebody's trained for 15 years doesn't necessarily mean they may still have not maxed out their potential. If you just kept training the way that you did when you started. I mean, my training and approach has evolved a lot. Learning to train with higher intensity. Intensity is really a skill that you hone and develop, where you're getting your central nervous system involved, and there's got to be adrenaline and aggression that really, I think, allows you to build more muscle over time than if you just sort of are sitting there like a limp potato, and you don't have any intensity. I just think it's harder to push yourself and challenge your body to grow more. Longer rest times, change the tempo, better mind muscle connection. I think all these things you can develop, but if you're complacent with your workouts and you don't challenge yourself to try new stuff and push the envelope, then you could train for 15 years and still have a relatively intermediary training approach, which people do, and I've seen it. So I think it depends on how much one challenges themselves to adapt and adjust their training as they go. And if they're really putting pressure on themselves to try to find new methods and evolve what they're doing to try to get more growth. I think that should be considered as well, with just, this person's trained for 20 years, therefore they must be completely capped out. I think if you've trained for 20 years and you've progressively challenged yourself to push your limits further and further and experimented with lots of different methodologies over those years, then you very well could be at your limit or close to. But if you haven't, you've just been showing up and checking the box, then I think there still could be gains left untapped. So it's kind of my rant for that. But that's what the arm training is looking like right now. And we're closing in on 19-inch piped Aderinos. Hopefully in the next month or so here, we will cross that barrier. Running out of juice. Can't think of what I'm saying. So that's it. I think that's all we wanted to talk about. Wrap the video up. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in growing your arms, the arm program is linked below. And, anytime you guys sign up, I greatly appreciate it. Help support me, help support the channel. If you enjoy my message, and again, the previous video I made, that's what I believe, man. I think it is and I don't expect everybody to agree, but I want to say what I think. And, my hope is that people take the time to try to digest the message. For those of you that, do enjoy the videos, you'll notice that there is always some kind of deeper layer insight that I think is providing value for you, that I see providing value in my own life. And a lot of people get fixated on these surface level things, and they can't get past their initial gut reaction, their emotional response. And it's sort of not funny, but it's interesting to see the response. I do usually check the comments, and sometimes if the comment section turns negative, I just stop looking, but I usually try to check the pulse of the comment section to see what people think, and see what the feedback is. And I have no issue with somebody disagreeing with my opinion that I think Hussein's natural. I mean, I'm taking an educated guess at the end of the day. But it's just funny to see people miss the bigger point and just keep arguing. And it's like you're perpetuating exactly what I'm suggesting you try to move off of, which is being so dogmatically convinced and frustrated and angry. And this fact, he used a broomstick and he did it in this amount. And there's just no way anyone could ever do that pie. And I'm just so mad. And the freaking fitness industry is screwing us all over. It's almost like adjacent to the person who thinks everything's a conspiracy, It's like people were super gullible 20, 30 years ago, and just whatever came out in the mainstream news and media, people believed. And now the pendulum swung completely to the other side where you don't believe anything anymore, right? Everything's a lie. Everything's a conspiracy. I feel like that's kind of what's happening with the fake natty discussion. And this picture, I'll try to put it up here. I just saw on Instagram. I thought it was really funny. Hadi Abdel posted it, or him and Hussein. I checked out Hussein's Instagram because I was like, some people are saying that he's lost size or he hasn't continued to make progress. I'm like, he looks like he's continuing to grow, or at least just as jacked as he was before. And I'm really getting into this, but the argument would be that his rate of progress was so fast, 50 to 60 pounds in 2 years, and that's not what most people see. And that is extremely quick and could be with the use of additional PEDs. But in my opinion, I allow for, I think that's real. I think that is possible, which is the argument I'm making. Whether he's lying or not, I think, that's double my rate of progress, but I think that's possible. I don't think what I'm going to see in my own personal reality is the peak of what anyone could have achieved. I think there's a whole bunch of people that have totally way better genetics than me and are going to be able to build way more muscle way faster. So I look at that, I'm like, I think that's realistic. If somebody builds 40 pounds of muscle in 4 months, I don't think that's realistic. I think they are for sure enhanced. I don't think you're adding 10 pounds of muscle every month. But in Hussein's case, as I broke down, I'm sounding like a broken record here. He's gaining 2 pounds of muscle a month. I guess apparently to some people that's impossible. I thought it was possible. I feel like during my newbie beginning stage, the first 3 months, I want to say I gained more than 6 pounds. My body weight went up 10 pounds so long ago. But I remember just a pretty quick, rapid, for sure within the first 6 months, gaining at least 10 pounds. Maybe someone that was fat, I don't know. But, I think 1 to 2 pounds of muscle, for me, somebody who I don't look at myself as having elite level genetics, seem to happen. So 2 pounds of muscle a month, I guess is impossible. Yeah, Tim Ferriss, this is a great example. Tim Ferriss, I've made a video on it. If you guys are subscribed and you watch all my videos, you'll know. He says he gained 34 pounds of muscle in 28 days. And people believe him. I remember lots of people believed it. So that's the majority of people believed that. So that's a perfect example of how uneducated the public was, generally speaking, and how that's completely changed. Where now 2 pounds of muscle a month, tons of people believe is impossible. Where, 15 years ago, a lot of people were believing that 34 pounds in a month was possible. So maybe the pendulum will come back. I think we're so far extreme, that anyone who has a better physique than you or a better rate of progress, must be a fake natty is like a little crazy, I'm living in a world where 5'11", 180 pounds with abs is totally natural, possible. There's people out there, which again, I don't know if he's lying or not, but there are people out there that can achieve that. And gaining the best people in the world for muscle gain genetics, gaining 50 to 60 pounds of muscle in 2 years I think is possible. You could disagree with me, but that's what I think based on what I've experienced, not being that rate of progress, and then just trying to look at and understand the amount of variance and difference that we see among the human population. And some people are like phenomenal athletes, man. They're like the things that their bodies are physically capable of doing is like people that are marathon runners, people that are like professional triathletes. Like the average person can do like 1% of that, or like professionals like Hafthor Bjornsson just deadlifted 505 kilograms. Like he's a human. He's on gear. It's still like how many humans could do that? I don't know. I just see so much variability in genetics that determine physical athleticism that when I look at somebody like Hussein Fard, I'm like, I think it's counterproductive to be 100% convinced that he's for sure a fake natty. And there's no way anybody could see that amount of progress and have that physique. I think we're slipping into this arena of anyone who has more progress or gains muscle faster than me is fake because it makes me feel better about how my reality, which I don't blame anyone, but it's just not a constructive freaking thing. Anyways, that's it. We're not going to talk about it anymore. I'm sure me talking about it again is going to piss a bunch of you off. It's just my opinion, okay? Don't get mad, all right? I could be wrong, okay? I don't know for sure. I hope that the deeper insight that I'm trying to get at, to convince you to stop spending so much time focusing on that because of various reasons. It's not actually productive. It's not making your life better. I hope that is what you take away from it. Just step away from the fake natty situation. I mean, you can still look at people, take everything with a grain of salt. You don't know for sure, but I'm not going about every day thinking, I'm going to the gym, be like, Hussein's feet lying to me, and the freaking other Jeff's lying, and everyone's lying. And it's like, maybe not. Like, I'm just going to attack my workouts, stay positive. I think something reasonable that is like double my rate of progress is possible, in my world. I think that that's realistic. Somebody that, gains muscle at, 10 times the rate I have, I'm going to say you're probably not natural. 40 pounds in 4 months, that seems absurd. It seems so like extreme that I think you have great genetics and you're blasting gear. That would be my guess. That's just my opinion, and we all have to validate our own. But I think for most of us, if you have average genetics, then you need to be able to accept that somebody has exceptional genetics and their rate of progress, you should have room for their rate of progress to be at least double yours, I think, is reasonable. The expectation that the standard is that everyone needs to progress at the same rate as you or close, otherwise they're a fake natty, I don't think it's realistic. And I think you're just being delusional to make yourself feel better about your rate of progress. So, challenge yourself to assess, like, hey, what am I willing to accept? At the end of the day, it's going to be your opinion. It's your world that you're living in. What am I willing to accept? Because it can't be just what you're seeing. Unless you think you have 1 in a million genetics. Then that person could say, this is the peak. Anyone who exceeds this probably taking gear. Okay, maybe. But most of us, even if you have good genetics, like maybe you're 1 in 100 at best, 1 in 1,000 tops. Most of us are fucking in the midline. In the 80 middle ground, 80% of people who have like average freaking genetics, you got to think that there's going to be a bunch of motherfuckers that way exceed your experience. And so that's frustrating, but it's just the reality. So I don't know. That's enough. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. That's the end of it. That's my take. Take from it what you will. ARM program in the description if you want to get gigantic freaking pipe daddies. Have a great day. Peace.